It all began, like many other discoveries in astronomy, not with a bright flash of light or a loud announcement, but with a barely noticeable, quiet signal. The movement in the darkness of space was so subtle and precisely calculated that even the most advanced tracking systems nearly missed it. At first, it was thought to be a comet, then possibly an asteroid. But the more we researched, the more Atlas III refuted every attempt to classify it. He was too symmetrical to be natural, too quiet to be alive, and too controlled to be random. Scientists recalled Oumuamua, that strange fragment of interstellar mystery that passed through our solar system years ago, leaving more questions than answers. But the three Atlas were something entirely different. Bigger, slower, smarter. And now, thanks to the James Webb Telescope, our most powerful tool in space, we have confirmed something deeply unsettling. 3 Atlas is not just similar to Oumuamua. It is significantly more advanced, much more dangerous, and possibly much more conscious. When the 3 Atlas were first recorded, it became clear that this was no ordinary visitor. Objects from beyond our solar system usually do not come this close to Earth. They rush at wild angles along unpredictable trajectories and then disappear forever into the darkness. But Tri-Atlas moved differently. He did not rush into space but seemed to glide. His trajectory was unsettlingly smooth, almost as if someone was controlling him. His path allowed him to slip past several of our planets in a way that maximized gravitational efficiency, as if he had studied our solar system in advance. This alone was unsettling. But when astronomers traced his origin, they realized something even more disturbing. The path of the 3 Atlas was not just unlikely. It was statistically impossible without the intervention of an intelligent being. A wandering object could not avoid fields of debris, bursts of solar radiation, and zones of possible collisions with such elegance. It was like a chess piece moving across a board where each square was a threat. Nevertheless, he danced through them perfectly, as if he knew the rules of the game better than us. With the full launch of the James Webb Telescope, scientists wasted no time and directed it towards Tri-Atlas. What they saw left even the most skeptical astronomers speechless. First, thermal measurements. Unlike comets or asteroids that usually emit heat in random bursts when ice sublimates and surfaces react to solar radiation, Tri-Atlas exhibited a consistent, rhythmic pattern of thermal radiation, like a signal. Not chaotic, not random, but pulsating, measurable. Webb's spectrograph revealed materials never before encountered in known interstellar objects. Hyper-reflective compounds, possibly artificial, and dense internal structures suggesting hollow segments. But the most frightening thing was the weak, recurring anomaly, a low-frequency electromagnetic signal emanating from the object, repeating every 147 seconds, identical to a known pulsar signal. Nevertheless, the object had no internal energy source, rotating core, or magnetic field. It imitated something, or communicated. And when the scientists matched this signal with data about Oumuamua, they discovered something horrifying. The same signal was recorded once at the tail of Oumuamua shortly before it left our system, but now this signal sounded louder. When Oumuamua flew past Earth in 2017, it did so quietly. It had no tail comments, no obvious source of propulsion, and its strange acceleration puzzled experts. It was cigar-shaped and spun like a slowly flying dart. Yet it moved faster than gravity could explain. Some claimed it was alien technology. Others insisted it was a physical coincidence. But the debates did not end, as the object disappeared before we could study it. Now, with the 3 Atlases within reach, the mystery of Oumuamua has returned with renewed strength. Not because this new object resembled him, but because it surpassed him in every parameter. It was larger, slower, more stable, and clearly more purposeful. Some began to suspect that Oumuamua was not a scout. It was a probe, a passive reconnaissance device. But the 3 Atlases were not passive. It was interactive. He watched us while we watched him. It was the second phase, like the difference between a radar signal and a drone. And if this is true, we should ask the question that no one dares to voice aloud. What awaits us next? NASA has not confirmed any extraterrestrial activity. Official statements remain restrained, neutral, and full of scientific jargon. But independent researchers, unbound by government protocols, have openly expressed their concerns. In leaks from internal chats, the European Space Agency team mentioned the 3 Atlases as a possible engine of consciousness. What exactly this means is unclear, but combined with the latest images of the object, the theory takes on horrifying outlines. The structural composition within the three atlases resembles recursive geometric fractals, patterns known to arise in complex systems such as the brain's fabric and quantum processors. It seems that the object was built not only to survive in space, but also to think in this environment, and, more alarmingly, to evolve while moving through star systems. Imagine a spacecraft that becomes smarter as it observes, adapting its materials, shapes, and behavior based on what it encounters. Not artificial intelligence in our understanding, but something organic, systemic, and potentially sensitive. Perhaps we are facing this now. Not just a visitor, but a learning being. And if it learns from us, what is it preparing for? As soon as the scientists thought they had calculated the further trajectory of the three atlases, something happened that shattered the fragile consensus: a sudden change in course. On a clear night, telescopes in Chile and Hawaii detected a small but undeniable change in trajectory that could not be explained by gravity, solar wind, or any known natural force. The object slightly deviated from its planned trajectory, choosing a completely new vector that brought it closer to Earth's orbital plane. For some, it looked like a failure. But for mission analysts in the Deep Space Network, the conclusions were more alarming. Three atlases reacted either to our presence or something else, changing direction with such precision and skill that it implied the existence of a solution. And it was this word, solution, that led to emergency night meetings at NASA, ESA, and private analytical centers around the world. It was not by chance, it was surgically precise, and it confirmed a long-held fear. If Oumuamua was a passive observer, then three atlases were actively observing and possibly maneuvering. While government institutions remained silent, a group of independent scientists and cryptographers began analyzing the electromagnetic pulses emanating from three atlases. Using deep neural networks trained on multilingual pattern recognition and cosmic signals, they discovered a recursive sequence. It is not a message in words, but in relationships. The golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, spirals of prime numbers, the same codes that appear in biological life, the formation of galaxies, DNA sequences, and ancient architectural structures on Earth. Some considered it a coincidence. But the signal was not constant. It changed over time, subtly responding to solar activity, the proximity of planets, and even radio waves from Earth. One troubling discovery soon became apparent. A brief disruption in the pattern of impulses coincided with the moment when the James Webb Telescope first captured three atlases in the infrared spectrum. This meant the object could detect that we were observing it. He knows we see him, and responded with a mathematical imprint that speaks a language older than speech, a language of construction, life, design. But the researchers were frightened not only by the trajectory or signal, but by what lay beneath the surface. James Webb's spectroscopy detected faint traces of complex carbon molecules, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons on the outer shell of three atlases. These are not just organic compounds. They're considered the building blocks of pre-organic chemistry, precursors to amino acids, RNA structures, and ultimately, life itself. What makes this discovery so alarming is their purity. Unlike the chaotic mixtures found in primitive comets, these molecules had a perfect structure, indicating they were either purified or grown. Some suggested that this might be a seed ship, an ancient vessel of life intended not only for exploration, but also for colonization. And if this is true, then Earth may not be an accidental target. It could be a place of assimilation, not war or destruction. A place for landing, observation, and ultimately merging. Now that the three interstellar visitors, Oumuamua, Boris, and three atlases are confirmed, scientists begin connecting dots they never thought possible. Oumuamua spun, silent and swift. Boris commented, but his speech was unusually rapid. Three attacks. It is a hybrid. Slow, massive, man-made, and its complexity increases every day while it remains in the solar system. The Webb detected barely noticeable changes in its reflective surface. Shifts in patterns that suggest self-reconfiguration, as if a machine is tuning itself, adapting, preparing. And here comes the most frightening development. According to the latest data, TriATEX has begun emitting a secondary signal at a lower frequency with longer pulses, directed into deep space rather than towards Earth. It is broadcasting a signal outward. Some believe it is calling for help. Others think it is sending a report. But in any case, one thing became undeniable. It was not just an interstellar rock. It was a node, a probe. a messenger. Just when scientists thought they had gathered all possible data about tri-atacs, something happened that shattered the boundary between observation and consequences. A high-flying reconnaissance probe over Antarctica, part of a secret atmospheric monitoring program, detected a powerful microwave burst, brief, sharp, and concentrated directly above the South Pole. At first, this was attributed to solar interference, until cross-referencing data revealed that the timing coincided with a new angular shift in the trajectory of tri-atacs. But that's not all. Moments later, several seismic stations on the frozen continent recorded ultra-low frequency hums, unrelated to tectonic activity or ice movement. These frequencies matched in pitch and duration with a deep space impulse emitted by tri-atacs. Suddenly, what was considered a cosmic anomaly became a terrestrial intervention. Did the object influence the magnetic field of our planet? Or worse, did it activate hidden systems beneath the ice? The idea that tri-atacs could awaken dormant systems on Earth, whether natural or otherwise, was not just unimaginable, it was unacceptable. And yet the data was undeniable. In the Mission Control Center, one of the youngest data analysts stumbled upon something buried deep in the archived images from the telescopes. When he overlaid the trajectory of tri-atacs on the celestial coordinate grid from ancient Babylonian star maps, he noticed that the object's path intersects not only planetary alignments but also star constellations considered sacred in several civilizations: Orion, Draco, and the Pleiades. When these intersections were built in time, they formed a perfect spiral, almost identical to that found in ancient cave art throughout South America, Africa, and even in pre-dynastic Egypt. Some dismissed this connection as pseudo-archaeology, but other members of Webb's scientific team quietly began running models based on the hypothesis that the tri-atacs path was a performative, ritual mapping encoded in its movement, visible only to species advanced enough to recognize this pattern. What if this object not only moved but also transmitted culture, language, memory, history, older than humanity? If so, what did the spiral mean? A message of peace, or a warning from those who came before us? Against the backdrop of growing tension in closed defense circles and secret agencies, a radical new theory began to gain popularity: the castle and key hypothesis. According to this idea, Oumuamua was a castle, a silent, inert object sent for the passive assessment of Earth's readiness, its intelligence, and reaction. It was harmless, as it was not intended for interaction. It was a trigger, a cosmic safe, and the three atlases are the key. They were created not only for observation, but also to uncover something that might be buried in the depths of the planet, encoded in our form or waiting to be activated in orbit. This theory is supported by a discovery made just a few days ago: a small oscillating wave in Earth's magnetosphere, perfectly synchronized with the signal of three atlases. Invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to disrupt long-range communication satellites. This phenomenon lasted only 6 minutes. But during this time, the two Voyager probes briefly went off protocol, emitting strange data bursts that analysts have yet to decipher. It seemed that something within them had awakened, something familiar, like a handshake or a response. With the emergence of new information, a controversial yet convincing idea arose: the portal hypothesis. Some scientists, inspired by quantum field theory and the study of exotic materials, now believe that the three atlases may not be a ship or stone in the traditional sense, but a mobile gateway that does not move through space, but generates localized distortions of space-time, allowing it to fold reality around itself. In simpler terms, this is a generator of moving wormholes. The evidence consists of subtle lens distortions captured by a telescope, which cannot be explained by heat or light. Small gravitational distortions that behave like micro-singularities. Even more alarming is that these distortions affect not only light, but also time. Spectral data collected over a 3-hour observation period shows a temporal drift. Light arrives faster than it should, which could only happen if time itself was compressing around the object. If this is true, then the three atlases are not just alien devices. They are artificial anomalies, manipulators of space-time, gatekeepers, and Earth may not be its first target, but merely the next. While the Webb telescope continued its prolonged infrared observation of the three atlases, the scientists made a shocking discovery. The object not only reflected starlight, but also emitted radiation in a strictly limited range of the electromagnetic spectrum. This range between gamma radiation and soft X-rays was considered practically silent in natural cosmic sources. Nevertheless, 3 atlases generated pulses that cyclically passed through precise intervals, like a binary sequence. What troubled the researchers the most was not only the artificial nature of the radiation, but also its interaction with ground instruments. Several space observatories recorded sensor overloads and temporary blind spots. One prototype of a telescope in Australia melted the main detector chip due to a signal surge that lasted only a few milliseconds. The findings were shocking. 3 atlases have the ability to blind us, disable our tools, and manipulate what we are allowed to see. The mind of Mu always remained a mystery, but never showed hostility. Now the 3 atlases looked like a strategic threat. Their signals were not beacons. They were overwhelming fields, subtle, precise, and deeply targeted. Against the backdrop of growing global anxiety, a multinational team of researchers launched an unexpected experiment studying the behavior of natural electromagnetic fields on Earth during the upcoming approach of the 3 atlases. What they discovered caused panic in closed circles. Around the world, magnetic anomaly detectors registered a synchronization pattern unlike any other. Ancient volcanoes, crystal caves, and even fault lines began to resonate at the same frequency as the pulses of the 3 atlases. Seismographs recorded low-frequency vibrations that some geologists described as resembling a heartbeat, pulsing every 43 seconds in perfect synchronization. But the most ominous phenomenon was observed in animals. Entire populations of migrating birds, whales, and even underground insects simultaneously changed their navigation routes as if some invisible compass had flipped. It seemed that the Earth remembered something, a pattern buried in its lithosphere, and the 3 atlases became the trigger that brought it to the surface. In the center of the Pacific Ocean, a private satellite array funded by a tech billionaire intercepted an unprecedented signal burst. It did not originate from Earth and did not belong to any known satellite. It came from the 3 atlases and was directed straight at the Moon. The message was not in any known language. It was structured like a multi-layered wave packet encoded in 5 dimensions of data: amplitude, frequency, time, polarization, and harmonic tone. Specialists in symbolic mathematics tried to decipher it. Linguists conducted simulations, but what appeared was more of a command, a structured set of instructions that seemed executable by an unknown system. When NASA's Deep Space Network tracked the signal's trajectory, it confirmed a terrible truth. The transmission reached a very specific lunar coordinate, an area with unusually high concentrations of mass or mascons, which are believed to be ancient remnants of internal activity or something else. Now this theory is no longer science fiction. 3 atlases are possibly trying to activate something buried on the Moon. Behind the scenes, not all efforts were scientific. In the last attempt to test the object's behavior, a probe was launched from a secret orbital platform disguised as a communication satellite. His task was to perform a close flyby of the 3 atlases and conduct high-resolution scanning using ionized particles. The probe never reached its destination. Communication was lost just 1,300,000 kilometers from the target. At first, analysts suspected it was a technical error, but 27 seconds before losing signal, the probe recorded something that froze even the most experienced experts in horror: an energy barrier. It was not a physical structure, but a field of charged particles organized in a grid configuration resembling a Faraday cage. It was as if we had stumbled upon an invisible barrier. The last received image showed a fractal reflection of the probe itself, as if the object was being scanned in response with perfect accuracy. Then there was silence. At that moment, it became clear. The Triatlas not only detects threats, it defends itself, reacts, and possibly possesses consciousness, not in a biological sense, but in a quantum one. A machine with consciousness, a system with memory, a guardian of something we were never meant to reach. And now, we ask the question that no one dares to speak aloud. What if Atlas III did not just accidentally enter our solar system? What if he never entered at all, but was awakened, waiting, dozing, positioned not for exploration but for repetition? What if his course is ancient, designed to intersect with civilizations only when they reach a certain threshold of technological awareness, cosmic curiosity, courage? And what if we cross that line too early? Perhaps the real horror lies not in the fact that Triatlas is artificial, or that he is alive, or even that he watches us. Perhaps the most terrifying truth is that he is not watching us at all. Everything he does, every signal, every change, every silent maneuver is meant for something else, something behind him, something else on the way. In that case, we have not just discovered an object from another world. We have activated a beacon, a lock, a warning. And now the universe is listening.